Detroit Lions fans, welcome back to the Detroit Den with Steve. I am going to be talking some Detroit Lions football. That's what we do on this channel. It's the Detroit Lions YouTube channel. I will say that the 4th of July is coming up, so I'm trying to put out some good quality content for you guys before the holiday. I will probably take the holiday off, obviously, spend some time with my family. Also, it is the last couple days that someone in this world does not know that their time with 10 fingers is coming to an end. So be careful with your fireworks. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. Don't overdrink yourself. And don't blow up your friends and family. Today, I'm going to be talking about Brad Holmes. I feel like Brad Holmes deserves his own day. Like, we need like a Brad Holmes day. We need like a monument outside of Ford Field. I'm willing to chip in towards it a little bit. I'll make a generous donation of whatever I can realistically afford. But Brad Holmes just deserves some flowers, man. He deserves some credit. He deserves a lot of the praise for why everyone's so excited for Detroit Lions football. Why we won our first playoff game in 30 years, why season ticket holders are selling out, why it's so hard to get a ticket to the Detroit Lions game. Because I'll tell you right now, I've been a season ticket holder for a few years. Not that long ago, I couldn't give those bad boys away. Now it seems like every week I got someone texting me, hey, you going to the game this week? If not, I want to buy your tickets. Like, we don't miss games. We are missing one this year. We'll not be at the Buffalo game. Sad about that, but those tickets have already been claimed. So we just got to talk about Brad Holmes, man. Like, he's hands down him, Chris Spielman, Sheila, Dan Campbell. Like, it really comes down to me, Brad Holmes and Chris Spielman. I feel like Chris Spielman doesn't get a lot of credit either, but we're going to be talking about Brad Holmes and what he does, how he's done it, and why we are so grateful to have winning competitive football back in the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit, because it's been too long. And I'll tell you this just real quick before I really get into my details here. Just going down to some of these playoff games this past year and some of the big meaningful games, like seeing the city of Detroit buzzing, there's just no place like it. Now, I'm not a Detroit native. I've been told that I say Detroit wrong. It's Detroit and not Detroit. I don't know, man. We're all fans here, right? Can we just agree that it's the Lions? Like, everyone just loves the Lions. How you say it doesn't really mean anything to me. You know, I'm not a native of Detroit, but I frequent there often. I've been there probably a million times. I don't know. Cut me some slack. But let me just start by saying this. When the Lions hired Brad Holmes, I was a little skeptical. I was a little worried / nervous. Just didn't have any experience as a GM. I thought that this team was already in the depths of hell. Like, we didn't know what was going to happen with Stafford, and we bring in a guy, Brad Holmes, that doesn't have any general manager experience. I was a little worried about it. And I'll be honest, full disclosure, I wanted John Dorsey to be the Lions GM. Worked out. We got both. John Dorsey does have a role with the Lions. I can't remember what his official title is. Someone leave that in comments and let me know. But that's who I was looking at. But we get Brad Holmes. He's done nothing but hit pretty much home runs. Like, very, very few minor slip-ups, I will say, about Brad Holmes. Compared to other GMs, trust me, like, I'm not complaining. Like, I know the NFL is a business, and it's hard to really project who's going to do what and who's going to be successful and who's not. And I feel like Brad Holmes has managed and gotten through those waters very, very well the last few years. So I will say, to start with some of Brad Holmes' strengths, I got 3 things here. If you guys got any more at the end of mine, leave it in the comments. I didn't want to just list off 500 things that Brad Holmes does really well. I tried to narrow it down to 3. It was really tough to do. Again, cut me some slack. Coming from his background with the Rams, he was a college scout. So his scouting is second to none when it comes to GMs. Like, this guy realizes and recognizes college talent and has that canny ability to dictate if someone's going to be able to play in the NFL. That is probably the hardest thing for a general manager to do, to go to a college game where it's maybe a drop off in competition. You might be watching like Tennessee play Middle Tennessee State. How do you dictate if a guy is ready for the NFL if they're not going against top-notch competition? So I will say real quick, I need to stop saying I will say. I got to come up with a new phrase. Some of these new rules in college football where teams are having these mega conferences, I feel like is going to help NFL scouts too, because the competition is going to be more on par with each other. Just for example, like Michigan playing Texas in week 2 instead of Central Michigan. Like, you're going to get a better look at players and what they can do. So for a scout, I feel like that's going to help them get a realistic grasp on what the competition is in college, instead of watching like Texas go out and just shellac somebody on a Saturday. How are you really going to those games and being able to grade someone? that's going against guys in smaller colleges that aren't on the same level of competition. So I do like what college football is doing in that aspect for the NFL. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe no one's really thought about it, but I was talking about that with a buddy today. Like, I really like what the college football game's doing. So for Brad Holmes, coming from being a scout, he knows exactly what he's looking for. And I'll say this, I've kind of hinted that I said it again. I'll say this. Brad Holmes leaves little breadcrumbs on about what he's going to do. And I called what he was going to draft this year when he went to Alabama's pro day with only a handful of guys that were going to go in the first 2 rounds, compared to Michigan, who was right down the street from him with like 18 guys working out at their local pro day. I kind of said Brad Holmes leaves little breadcrumbs on what he's going to do. So when he's the scout and what he sees, he knows what he wants to see in person. I think he makes himself available to go down there and watch it. His very first draft pick is going to go down as one of the Detroit Lions' greatest offensive linemen of all time. I'll just say it in Penei Sewell. Like, that was his very first draft pick, and he hit an absolute nuke. I can't even say he hit a home run. He hit something better than a home run in Penei Sewell. For me, and I'll say in that draft, I remember wanting Penei Sewell or Micah Parsons. It was one of those two or bust for me. There was literally no one else at pick 7 in that draft that I wanted besides one of those two. We left with Penei Sewell. I was ecstatic. I hate Micah Parsons now. He's public enemy number 1, especially for the Cowboys, but we got one of our guys. And again, one of the best Detroit Lions offensive linemen easily, in my opinion, unless there's like an old timer out there that you can drop a name and I can look up. Like, I'm just racking my brain. I cannot think of a better offensive lineman than Penei Sewell that we've had. Frank Ragnall's a close second. Frank's going into the Hall of Fame as well. So he's really hit a home run. I know that Frank wasn't a Brad Holmes draft pick, just for the record. His second strength, I think, is just building this culture. When we started throwing out that phrase of building culture, like saying it every week, I was like, what does that even mean? What is building culture in football? Not too long ago, the Detroit Lions had to overpay to get free agents here. Like, we had to spend over like a lot of money to get players here to come here and just kind of, hey man, I'm playing for the Lions. I'm just here to cash a paycheck. Like, I don't really give a shit if we win or lose. Now it's free agents want to come here. They're taking a little bit less money to get here, and that's because of Dan Campbell as well. But how Brad Holmes has shaped up this team to make this a destination, I'll say. Like, we're not the sexiest city. We're not Miami. We're not Las Vegas. We're not California or LA. We're Detroit. Like, we're known for being a hardworking town. Go work at your plant Monday through Friday. On Sundays, you come watch Lions. That's what we do in this state. Brad Holmes has been the biggest part of that, him and Dan Campbell. So that's kind of what culture means to me. If you guys have a different definition of it, let me know. I feel like it's open for interpretation. There's not just one way to interpret how you feel about what the culture is in Detroit. That's just what I feel like it is from a general manager standpoint. Now, for Dan Campbell, it might be different. So I'm not really going to lead into that because, hint, hint, I might have an episode about Dan Campbell in the works. So stay tuned for that one. Thirdly, the energy. I love seeing Brad Holmes like just be a normal dude. Like, when the Lions go to, play the Chiefs in week 1 and he's dapping up all the crowd in the first row, all the Lions fans like celebrating after clinching the division in the elevator, screaming, fist bumping, just doing all those things, man. Like, you don't see that out of any other GM. At least I don't. If it's out there, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any other GM like that emotional, that emotionally attached to the Detroit Lions like Brad Holmes is. Now, some people might look at it and say it's cocky, but hey, I love it, man. This guy is emotionally invested in this team, as we all are. That's what makes us fans. He's a fan of this team. The word fan comes from fanatic. Like, we act a little outside our minds when we don't know how to win. And sometimes when we lose, it's absolutely gut-wrenching. I'll tell you, when we lose a Sunday game or any game of that matter, you can ask my wife. Like, I'm not a good person to be around for a couple days. I'm just sad. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't really want to do anything. It's like, man, I got to sleep. I just want to lay in bed and sleep for a couple days because the Lions lost. And as those expectations are growing, it's kind of hitting me a little harder and harder as we lose games. And I understand we're not going to go 17-0. Like, the 72 Dolphins are safe. The Detroit Lions in 2024 are probably not going to win every single game. I just hope we win that last game, guys. That's what I'm going to leave it with. Hit that like button, stick around, leave some comments down below. Let me know how you feel, guys, and I'll be back later with another show.